Hi, I'm Tom Brookshire.
And I'm Pat Summerall, and as we head into the 9th week of the NFL season, there are finally no undefeated teams left.
Right.
Dallas got a little revenge in the final seconds against St. Louis last week. And the best records in the league now belong to 3 teams. All of them are 7-1, Tom.
Well, St. Louis, they lost in the last seconds to Dallas, but I'll tell you, Jackie Smith claims they are not a folding team. They're not going to back up.
They've just about convinced me. They're still pretty good in spite of losing. Dallas a good team, of course. Oakland beat Denver. They look tough.
Well, they've only lost, their opening game, and now they've rolled off perhaps, the longest streak now in the NFL, right?
Perhaps one of the best teams in the league. Buffalo beat New England for the second time, 29-28. What do you think of them?
Well, somebody said it wasn't maybe that close, but that sounds about as close as you can get it. And those two teams are going to go down to the wire. Buffalo may be in the finals yet.
They might be. We'll be right back with This Week in the NFL after this message.
When the Cowboys played the Cardinals 4 weeks ago, St. Louis won the game on a field goal in the waning minutes. Last Sunday, besides wanting a full measure of revenge, Dallas needed a victory over the undefeated Cardinals to keep alive their wild card hopes for the playoffs.
For 7 weeks, Don Coryell and Jim Hart have kept the prow of the Cardinal victory ship straight on course to the Super Bowl. But it would take a mighty leap to scale the mountainous doomsday defense. Once again, St. Louis relied on the big play, and Hart's well-aimed lob to Jackie Smith gave St. Louis an early 7-0 lead. For most of 1974, Roger Staubach has disdained the ad-lib play, but it was his gambling, freewheeling style that led Dallas to a Super Bowl championship 3 years ago. Staubach moved the Cowboys into a 7-7 tie with some pinpoint passing, some clutch receiving, and a roughhouse run by Robert Newhouse. But what worried Dallas and Tom Landry was the Cardinals' ability to swoop down swiftly and score. That concern became a reality when Hart nailed Mel Gray at the flag. Trailing 14-7, the doomsday defense howled in on Hart. In the first wave came Pat Toomey. In the second, number 79, Harvey Martin. Prodded by the rolling thunder of doomsday, Dallas crashed into a 14-all tie on a smash by Calvin Hill. With the battle dead even, Staubach whistled a game winner to nifty Drew Pearson, the NFL's leading receiver. But Pearson's 52-yard explosion was aborted by a holding penalty, and St. Louis victory flag caught full wind. Undaunted, Dallas later drove to the Cardinal 3, and with 7 seconds left, rookie Efren Herrera kicked the Cowboys into victory and handed St. Louis their first loss of the season, 17-14.
Well, Pat, the NFC East is full of contenders, and I guess you have to figure that the second-place club should win a wild card berth maybe in the playoffs.
It's true, Tom, and last week the Washington Redskins were up in Green Bay, dead set on fattening their record.
When two teams like the Packers and Redskins are thrown together, it automatically becomes the kind of bodily punishing slug-out that only slow motion can find beauty in. It was, for the most part, a day of defense, in that throughout the first half, the Packers' clout was working effectively at shutting Billy Kilmer's offense down. But before halftime, Green Bay quarterback Jack Concannon let loose a pass from the tightening jaws of the Redskin rush that was destined for Washington possession. Number 89, Dave Robinson, made the interception, and the halftime score read Pack 6, Skins 3. With the start of the second half, one thing was clear. Billy Kilmer was throwing caution to the wind, and the result sparked a Redskin drive. Twice Billy looked for and found Charlie Taylor down the path to Packer pay dirt. From the Green Bay 22, Kilmer stepped back and zapped the football to number 46, Frank Grant, who busted into the Packer end zone for the game's only offensive touchdown and a 10-6 Washington lead. At the top of the fourth quarter, the game dramatically lost its competitive edge when Jack Kincannon rolled right and lofted a blooper which number 53 Harold McClinton latched a hold of to move the Skins about out of range for the plotting Green Bay offense at 17-6. But as the afternoon temperature plummeted, and with it Packer hopes of glory, John Hadle warmed up for his debut as a Packer. And while number 12 did spark a Packer drive, his goal was too big and time too limited as the Redskins moved within 2 games of St. Louis in the NFC East. 17-6, Washington over the green and gold.
The New York Giants traveled to Kansas City last Sunday with a new quarterback whose unenviable assignment was to do something positive with an offense that hadn't scored more than 1 touchdown in 4 straight losses.
It was actually no surprise when the Chiefs moved almost at will against the Giants' defensive perimeter. On their second possession, they drove down to the 5-yard line where rookie Woody Green missed by a yard with a TD shuffle. On the next play, Green got called again, and it was 7-0 Kansas City Chiefs. But number 15, Craig Morton, was going to move the Giants last Sunday, and his first target was number 27, Bob Grimm. At the Chiefs' 7, Morton honed in to number 84, Walker Gillette, and it was suddenly even Steven, 7-7. Craig Morton's determination was seemingly infectious as the Giants' special teams, led by number 82, Ray Rhodes, came up with a game-breaking effort. Taking advantage of field position, Morton struck boldly to Walker Gillette again. Once in close, Morton twice chose Ron Johnson, whose 1-yarders made it New York 20, Chiefs 7. The Chiefs then turned to Lynn Dawson, and the old pro immediately put his 18 years experience to work. Then, with only 18 seconds left in the first half, Dawson gave his receivers time to find an opening, and then fired to pro football's tallest person, number 88, 6'10" Morris Stroud, to keep the game interesting at 20-14 Giants. Despite Kansas City pressure, Giant aspirations did not falter as improved execution, heavily seasoned with good karma, allowed the Giants to pick up 2 more field goals to lead in the fourth period 26-17. Even in the Midwest, they know what a cliffhanger is, and with the Giants bouncing off Mega Man Morris Stroud, Kansas City hope for victory never dimmed. Len Dawson completed his 15-play, 75-yard drive with a throwback pass that found number 83 Larry Brunson all alone to kick one more toe hole from the New York advantage 26-24. After an excellent kickoff return, Morton pitched a 49-yard catch and run to number 26 Joe Dawkins, which had to put it away at 33-24. Right? Wrong, because the Chiefs immediately tacked on a field goal, and with less than a minute and a half remaining, were drawing a bead on the Giant end zone. the Giant 33, Lynn found number 17, Elmo Wright, who carried to the 16. Then, with just 15 ticks on the clock and no timeouts remaining, Dawson speared Larry Brunson at the New York 1-foot line. But Brunson was unable to score, and as time ran out, the Giants looked to be more survivors than conquerors in their 33-27 contest with the Chiefs.
Last Sunday, the resurgent Houston Oilers were looking for win number 3 of the season, and their second in a row, Tom.
That's right, Pat, and to get it, they traveled to Shea Stadium to battle Joe Namath and the slumpy New York Jets.
Though improvement is evident throughout the Oilers squad, victories don't back up the fact. An occasional Oiler letdown still plagued quarterback Dante Pastorini and company. On this Sunday, however, Oiler letdowns were at a minimum, while solid defensive play was at a premium. Number 22, Zeke Moore, returned Joe Namath's first pass of the game for a score. But Namath retaliated by using the rushing and receiving of number 43, Clarence Jackson. And New York struck back for 6. Still short by 1 following a missed conversion, the New York defense couldn't silence the rapid blasts of Pastorini's wham-blam offense. Number 34, Willie Rogers, provided the wham, while Pastorini combined with Billy White Shoes Johnson for the blam, giving the Oilers a 14-6 lead. Repeating the touchdown from our top camera shows that it was Pastorini's play-action fake which froze New York safety Dallas Howell, number 46, allowing Johnson a brief opening in the jet zone. Unshaken by the Oilers' effectiveness, New York marched in from 54 yards out, the final distance coming by way of number 32, Emerson Boozer. Namath finally put New York up front with a second quarter volley to number 82, David Knight. Looking at Knight's catch from our ground camera reveals that it was a super effort by the second-year wide receiver, which gave New York their first lead of the game. The Oilers battled back on the arm of Dante Pastorini and the clutch catches and runs of Ken "Double-O" Burrow. Pastorini combined with Burrow for 145 yards in receiving, including this 51-yard gusher, which set up Houston's winning margin. For the clincher, Willie Rogers burrowed in to finish the Jets 27-22. The victory showed poise in every respect by the young Oilers squad, and poise is something that will most certainly be needed this Sunday, as for a third consecutive win, Houston must conquer the stampeding Buffalo Bills.
Last week, the Cincinnati Bengals were upset by the Houston Oilers when Dan Pastorini began to look like the quarterback many feel he can become. This week, the Bengals faced another promising quarterback in Baltimore's Burt Jones, and they nearly succumbed to the strong-arm tactics once again.
Burt Jones started strong against the Bengals, airmailing one to rookie Roger Carr for 32 yards on the Colts' first possession. But from there, and for the rest of the first half, the Colt offense just couldn't put it together. The Bengals, on the other hand, put everything together, scoring 17 points in the second quarter. beginning with a 77-yard spectacular. Ken Anderson to Isaac Curtis. Anderson would pass for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, the second of which went for 27 yards to a completely uncovered Essex Johnson. Anderson was also the game's leading rusher, and after a fumble recovery gave Cincinnati possession on the Colts 17, he soared for 9 more yards. But the Colts stiffened, and a field goal gave the Bengals a 17-0 lead at halftime. In the second half, Jones began to do an impersonation of Anderson, and he had the Colts looking like the Bengals of the first half. Though Jones did not go down as hard as Anderson, he got up in much worse shape, suffering an injured shoulder on the play. But Gritty Burt gutted it out, completing the drive by handing to Lydell Mitchell, who brought the score to 17-7 Cincinnati. On the sideline, Jones tested his arm, but it proved too painful to continue. So into the game came Marty Domrace, and he joined the quarterbacks on parade running show. This scramble started a Colt drive in the third period that Domrace continued into the fourth with passing and pain. Pain for his receivers, that is. When Mitchell leaped in with his second touchdown of the day, Baltimore trailed only 17-14. But Anderson wrapped the game up with his third touchdown pass of the day, again teaming with Isaac Curtis from 45 yards out. The Bengals won going away 24-14 and heading toward a showdown with the Steelers this week.
Well, Pat, this week the Bengals face the Pittsburgh Steelers in a must-win situation. A loss now would drop them 2.5 games behind the Steelers with just 5 to go.
And Tom, that must-win situation against a Steeler team that seems to be just cresting at the right time. Last week they were simply awesome against your team, the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, this isn't Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. It's Arrowhead Ernie Holmes, a member of the Steel Curtain Steeler defense. And no, this isn't a popcorn salesman, it's me. I lost my pass, and this was the only way I could figure to get in to see the ball game. One thing that many in offense hasn't been able to figure out is the dominating defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Eagles certainly couldn't. Eagle runners were held to just 66 yards, and Roman Gabriel could amass just 29 yards passing. Statistics are nice, but they don't win football games. Turnovers, claim, do, and the Steelers used several to put the game away. Glenn Edwards' interception led to a field goal, and Joe Green claimed Tom Bailey's fumble and careened to the Eagle 15. Many have said that the Steelers are all defense, but their offense has been rounding into shape. Franco Harris made good on Green's recovery, and Franco appears ready to recapture his glorious rookie season. But the big change in the Steeler offense has been at quarterback. Chuck Noll has decided to go with Terry Bradshaw again, replacing pass-conscious Joe Gilliam, who failed to continue his preseason showing. Bradshaw adds a new element to the Steeler attack, for he can really hoof it. This 34-yard scamper was the longest run of the day, but Bradshaw's running ability means much more. He's able to escape pocket ambushes and still locate a receiver. And when Bradshaw isn't hurried, he can throw as tight a spiral as any quarterback in the game. So the Steeler offense appears to be awakening, and just in case they take a short nap on some Sunday in the future, there's always the Steeler defense to put points on the scoreboard. Mel Blount's 52-yard interception return completed the Steelers scoring in a 27-0 feather plucking of the Eagles. The Steeler playoff drive is in full gear, while for the Eagles, who had entertained playoff hopes themselves, their fourth loss may have finished them. You know, Pat, with 4 wins in their last 4 outings, the Detroit Lions now have to be considered the NFL's most surprising team. Man.
Surprising's right, Tom. And last Sunday, it was the New Orleans Saints, and especially quarterback Archie Manning, who found out just how surprising those Lions can be.
The Lions greeted Archie with a firm embrace, a hug which finally ended in the Tiger Stadium slosh. Amid extremely damp conditions, the Saints stopped themselves on several occasions, and on several others, Detroit was obliged to halt the visitors. Detroit quarterback Bill Munson seemed unaffected by the wetness as he consistently pierced the Saints secondary for good gainers. Ron Jesse's touchdown put Detroit in front by 10, allowing the Lion defense a chance to flex its quick scoring muscle. Number 23, Levi Johnson, sailed 78 yards with a blocked field goal attempt, giving Detroit a comfortable 16-0 pad. But the New Orleans defense finally arose from a slumber to put Billy Munson's offense on its back, while allowing the Lions only 3 points in the final 2 quarters. Number 78, Billy Newsome, stripped Steve Owens of the ball, then recovered it as the Saints defenders helped to put its offense in business. The Saints' first score came on a Manning to Joel Parker hookup. The second Saint touchdown resulted when 5'5" Howard Stevens, number 22, powered in following a Detroit turnover to pull New Orleans to within 2 points, 16-14. But further Saints scoring disappeared amid second half failures as the Saints would score no more. Detroit won it 19-14 to claim undisputed second place in the NFC Central Division.
You know, that was real old-fashioned mud those guys were playing in. And Tom, when you were a player, how'd you feel about playing in the mud?
Well, I liked it because it slowed down the guys with better speed. In Chicago last week, it was raining, but there really wasn't any mud.
There wasn't any mud in Soldiers Field last week because modern science has made it possible to play football games in the rain on sort of a giant sponge. The visiting Minnesota Vikings of Coach Bud Grant are used to playing in any kind of weather. and it would take more than a little dampness to stop Fran Tarkenton and the NFL's leading pass offense. Fran Tarkenton used a variety of receivers, but the one he used to break the game open was the one you'd expect, John Gilliam, number 42. John Gilliam's third period touchdown was the game's first, and in the fourth quarter, Fran Tarkenton finished off the Bears with a fourth down call to his wide-open tight end, Stu Voigt, number 83. The Bears had not given up a second-half touchdown in their previous 6 games, but Tarkenton's 2 second-half scoring passes ruined that record, and running back Chuck Foreman set out to get another. This would have been Foreman's 12th touchdown of the season, but a penalty left his league-leading point total at 66. Meanwhile, the Chicago offense could produce nothing. Gary Huff left with an injury, and his replacement, Bobby Douglas, was ineffective as the victorious Vikings shut out the bellicose Bears 17-0.
It was homecoming in Mission Bay for Cleveland quarterback Brian Sipe, who started San Diego State. There was the usual array of banners, fans, and parents to honor Brian, but one display of affection went a bit too far.
Yes, that is a wedding ceremony being celebrated in the stands, and it nearly overshadowed the eagerly anticipated homecoming of homegrown Browns quarterback Brian Sipe. But cool Brian was unflustered, and he unleashed a furious first quarter passing display. On 2 passes to Steve Holden, Sipe moved the Browns to an early 7-0 lead. Sipe's virtuoso passing display opened up the Chargers' defense, and tiny Greg Pruitt flew through the breach as Cleveland appeared on the verge of routing San Diego. Trailing 21-7, quarterback Dan Fouts revved up his right arm and rainbowed a touchdown to rookie phenom Don Woods. Fouts narrowed the Browns' lead to 21-19 with a rollout pitch to set back Glenn Bonner, who was covered by defensive end Mark Ilgenfritz, of all people. But when the Chargers tried a double reverse, they found double trouble in the form of the Browns' Nick Roman, number 81. Roman's recovery was converted into a Hugh McInnes touchdown on the first play of the fourth quarter, and Cleveland led 28-19. Dan Fouts passed for 333 yards on the day, and 70 quick yards came on this coast-to-coaster to rookie Harrison Davis. Davis' score cut the margin to a short-lived 28-26 as Brian Sipe rolled to his 4th touchdown in 2 weeks as Cleveland seesawed back into a 9-point lead, 35-26. It was a game of give and take, and Fouts grabbed it all with a pump-fake bomb to Don Woods. Every time Cleveland had threatened to blow the game open, San Diego had answered, and Brian Sipe's homecoming took on all the aspects of a wake. With 58 seconds remaining, Ray Wersching booted the Chargers into the lead for the first time, 36-35. Having come so far, the jubilant Chargers thought they would celebrate victory a minute early. But on the ensuing kickoff, Greg Pruitt spiked the champagne with a 61-yard return. Cleveland moved to the Charger 10, and with 22 seconds left, Sipe wanted to position the Browns for the winning field goal when he fumbled. One play turned Sipe from hero to GOAT as San Diego eked out a one-point win, 36-35.
The Oakland Raiders are now a virtual shoo-in for the playoffs, Pat, with an AFC leading record now of 7-1.
The tradition in Oakland, Tom, has always followed along the lines that a season is not a full season unless it includes more than 14 games. And last week, their closest rivals in the standings were left sprawling in the cold and snow.
Dandruff was not Raider coach John Madden's problem last week in Denver. Instead, his worried look was caused by a Denver snowstorm and a tough Broncos squad. But both the weather and the Broncos were easily handled the first time the Raiders had the ball, as a Ken Stabler to Fred Biletnikoff hookup was good for 6. The second time the Silver and Black had the ball, Stabler's 9-yard streak to Cliff Branch made it 14-zip Oakland, and it looked like the rout was on. The Raider defense was unyielding, and number 44 Floyd Little got nowhere in his brush with Dr. Death, alias number 26 Skip Thomas of the Raiders. Denver's other runner, number 24 Otis Armstrong, was also buried beneath a wave of silver and black, and the Broncos' prospects looked gloomy. But suddenly they flashed to life as quarterback Charlie Johnson hit Armstrong on a flare pass, and the speedy second-year man zipped 48 yards to the end zone. However, last week the Raiders were not to be headed, and Ken Stabler came right back with a 19-yard strike to Fred Biletnikoff to lead at 21-7. Valiantly, Johnson and the Broncos fought to catch up. A pass to tight end Riley Odoms, number 88, forced the big man out of bounds, much to his dismay, but set up a field goal, and Denver closed to within 11 at 21-10. Things really got interesting when Johnson reared back and fired across the middle to number 42, wide receiver Billy Van Heusen, who strolled 73 yards to bring Denver to within 4 points. But the Raiders are a team who always know when enough is enough. And so number 86 Gerald Irons put a quick end to Denver's next drive. Then, to keep their side of the score respectable, Ken Stabler and Cliff Branch made one last bombing run to wipe the Broncos out 28-17. A loss which for Denver virtually wipes them out of the year's playoff picture, dropping their record to 3-4-1.
With the emergence of so many possible playoff teams this season, the Miami Dolphins have been in a rather obscure role. Last Sunday, however, the Dolphins put it to the Atlanta Falcons in nothing less than World Championship style.
It was picture day last Saturday for the Dolphins, and for the first time this season, they had at least the resemblance of team unity. Curiously enough, the following day against the Atlanta Falcons was the second time this season they once again had the resemblance of team unity. And as in days of old, the no-namers were in absolute control. Due to injuries, the backfield has been diminished in both size and speed. But as number 36, Don Nottingham showed, not in desire. Nottingham's run set up Benny Malone for the touchdown, and it was Miami 7, Atlanta 0. On the following series, Bob Lee's trigger finger was hastened by the Miami rush, and its misfire was earmarked for interception. Dick Anderson made the steal, but for an all-pro, it was just too easy to get excited about. Having regained possession, the offense showed they deserved it, as number 89, Nat Moore, did some real nice trucking. At the 4-yard line, Bob Greasy just eased back and threw right between one lineman's hands into the matchless mitts of Paul Warfield for a 14-point advantage. It was not a complete shutout for Atlanta, however, and the primary reason for that was the darting figure of number 43, Dave Hampton. But when you get right down to it, Atlanta wouldn't have scored at all if it hadn't been for 3 major penalties and a super catch by number 41, Al Dodd. Finally, number 43, Dave Hampton, found a wee speck of daylight, and the Falcons avoided a shutout. It was a big day for Bob Greasy as he executed play action superbly and passed even better. Greasy was 10 for 15 on the afternoon, but the real nitty-gritty was this 51-yarder to peerless Paul Warfield. It was an important catch for Miami as it marked Warfield's return from more than a month of injury. With the defense turning over yet another possession, Greasy turned his heavy artillery downrange once again, and he found number 88, Jim Mandich, to make it Dolphins 28, Atlanta 7. With both Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris sidelined with injuries, the Miami backfield has been thought of only in makeshift terms. But last Sunday, number 32, Benny Malone's 24 carries for 108 yards were big league in anybody's book. And once in close, Don Nottingham's 3 touchdowns were certainly as Zonka-esque as the real thing. And after the little Cypriot tie-maker added the final point to Miami's 42-7 rout of Atlanta, one could feel the unmistakable return of Dolphins' super team togetherness.
Last week in Foxborough, Massachusetts, 2 of the NFL's best young teams met for the second time in 3 weeks, Tom, and it was another barn burner for the lead in the AFC East.
Pat, in those 2 games between Buffalo and New England, no less than 115 points were scored, but when it was all over, the margin of difference after 2 full games was just 1 field goal.
The Bills had beaten the Patriots 6 times in a row and had the AFC's top defense, top passer, and top rusher. But the Patriots were number 1 in some things, too, such as defense against the rush. The Bills settled for 3 points on their first series, but the Patriots got 7 on their first series when Jim Plunkett found the little big man, Mac Heron, over the middle. Mac Heron is only 5'5", but he is the NFL leader in total offense. At Kansas State, Heron led the Big 8 in receiving with Lynn Dickey as his quarterback and Larry Brown as his blocking back. Last Sunday, working with Jim Plunkett and Sam Cunningham, Heron rolled up another 169 yards of total offense and 3 big touchdowns. Thanks to Heron's heroics, the Patriots led 14-6 early in the second quarter. But then league-leading passer Joe Ferguson retaliated. Ahmad Rashad's touchdown brought the Bills to within 2 at 14-12. But then Sam Cunningham cut loose for New England. Sam the Bam's 9th touchdown of the season had New England up 21-12. But Joe Ferguson again came right back, this time to J.D. Hill. And at the half, the Bills were again within 2 at 21-19. The real killers for Jim Plunkett and the Patriots were 3 costly interceptions. Dave Washington, a very speedy linebacker, put Buffalo ahead 26-21 early in the 3rd period. And it seemed that the big plays would go on forever. Jim Plunkett kept firing to 7 different receivers. 2 of Plunkett's first-team receivers, Darrell Stingley and Bob Windsor, are now out for the year. Number 33, Reggie Ruckers, playing with a broken arm. But the Redcoats kept coming. And Mac Herron's 3rd touchdown of the day made it New England 28, Buffalo 26 after 3 quarters. John Leipold's 2nd long field goal again had Buffalo ahead in the 4th quarter. And then all the Bills had to do was hang on to the ball. New England's last chance came on 4th and 2 when the British rookie place kicker John Smith tried to win the game from 46 yards out. The kick had been partially blocked by a rookie tackle named Jeff Yates from, ironically enough, Boston College. The Bills had won their 6th straight this season, their 7th straight over the Patriots, and more important, were alone in 1st place in the incredibly competitive AFC East.
Well, it's prediction time, and you still have a wild card possibility.
Well, at least I'm back to 500, but you 19 and 15, you're going great guns. Let's have a run at some this week, though. The Giants and the Jets, how about that?
Some said it was a Subway Series, but they don't have a Subway up in New Haven.
Not the Yale Bowl, no.
I'm going to go with Joe Namath. He likes the Ivy League campus.
Oh, you made it easy for me, didn't you?
Yep.
I'll go with the Giants.
Okay.
Chicago, Green Bay.
They've been playing for 1,000 years. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears, I believe.
I sort of like the Bears, too, but just to be different and just because I got to catch you, I'll go with Green Bay. How about Washington, Philadelphia?
I'm going to go with the Eagles, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I'll take Washington then.
Okay.
Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
Well, that's going to be a good football game. Bradshaw looks like he's back, though, Pat. I think the Steelers will beat the Bengals.
They surely looked impressive last week. We saw them.
Tough.
So I'll go with Pittsburgh also. Monday night, a honey of a game. Minnesota at St. Louis.
And I understand the Vikings have really been looking forward to playing the Cardinals. I think Minnesota will roll again.
I'm going to pick St. Louis in this one. At any rate, we'll be back next week to show you what happens. I'm Pat Summerall.
I'm Tom Brookshire, and we'll see you next week.